Hello, and I've decided on another moment. Jackie's moments, just I love doing them. So this one I wanted to share with you. I'm sorry again, another share. This was about the volunteers that I got involved in the project. Now, the problem I could see that was going to happen in the prison was that by teaching the prisoners to become teachers, as I wasn't going to be in the room, I was being told that no prisoner could be on their own with other prisoners to teach. So my idea then was to bring a person from the community into the prison and that they could then facilitate the lessons with the prisoner. Because again, I was going to be looking at other projects, other ideas, but we needed this project to keep rolling. You know, we now had the mentoring, we now had learning workshops, and what I could see by teaching the prisoners to teach each other, it would again roll longer and longer and be able to go into other prisons. But most of all, most really important was that when these prisoners came out of prison, again, they would have so much more qualifications that they could use it in some of the charities that so many of them were trying to work in. So that was the idea. But again, now I had to find volunteers. And as you can imagine, it was quite hard. We actually, first of all, I went on radio and I asked for help to see if anybody would get involved. We then went to the voluntary sector in Chelmsford, and again we put some posters out and we had a meeting, and I think we got one or two there. But again, one of the volunteers, she didn't really think that in the end that she could work with prisoners. She wanted to, but she didn't think that she could not judge them. You know, so I think, you know, that was a little bit of a problem. But it was strange how I met one of the volunteers, and he had already worked with some of the prisoners in the company who drove the prisoners from court. And he had seen then that so many of the prisoners couldn't write. And what he would have to do in the back of the lorry, taking them from court to prison, he would then help them start writing some of the letters. So he realised that there was a big, big issue in the prison where a lot of these prisoners couldn't write. So he really understood, you know, the problem that I was dealing with. We had another gentleman who, again, had retired and wanted to help with this project. But what the craziest thing is that I met a lovely lady, and I think she's going to let me use her name, Deborah, and she had actually heard me on the radio. I think her mother heard me and phoned her up and told her to listen to the radio show. And, you know, I'm talking about all dyslexic and what I've gone through and, you know, some of the problems. And her mother heard it, Deborah heard it, and she so much wanted to help because, again, like myself, Deborah is dyslexic. And, of course, she wanted to come into the prison, and this was allowed. They actually let me bring her in, and she could meet all the mentors. She could see what was actually happening in the prison. She was just so excited that she wanted to get involved because she'd known all her life the problems she had had, but now she could see she wanted to help these prisoners. I actually did a lecture for her in Chelmsford, and that was so interesting because I had never had teachers come to my lectures. So many of the teachers I'd been frustrated with over my life because nobody understood what was wrong with me. So I hadn't really engaged enough with teachers. This conference or lecture that we did in Chelmsford in 2008, we actually had over 6 teachers. So there was secondary school, there was primary school, there was even from Open University. So when I was asking these teachers, what did you actually want? What did you come for? So many had said, you know, it just wasn't working. The way they were trying to teach, it wasn't working. What ideas I had. So getting involved with Deborah, coming outside, doing her a lecture for her. You know, it was a great evening. And what I then started to do was bring the volunteers home. And the idea was to literally start teaching them so that they could do the qualifications too, but then they could go into the prisons and they could work with all the prisoners for me. So I think you're getting a gist of how I saw this project moving forward, how it was going to help so many people. And the idea was we now had MPs on our side. We had Lord Addington had actually come into the prison. He had actually talked about the project in the Houses of Lords. Simon Burns had actually talked about the project in the Houses of Commons. And we were now looking to go into 12 prisons in the eastern region so that as the prisoners were leaving Chelmsford, we could then have them rolling into all these other prisons. This is where I'm going to leave this video today, because something very dramatic will show on the next video, and how this whole project just came to an absolute stop. It upset myself and so many people, but we will talk about that in the next video. But this video was all about the volunteers that came to help me. 4 good people, 4 people who understood what I was trying to do, didn't judge the prisoners, they just wanted to work with them. You know, one man who realised, you know, because he'd already helped prisoners, a lady who, again, was dyslexic herself, wanted to get involved with this project. Again, I would like to say, you know, a great big thank you for all these people that did get so involved in this project. So I'd like to say bye for now, and I'll be making another video very soon. So thank you again for watching, and bye.